Well, we after doing a fairly decent job in the first half defensively with some, Drummond hurt us on the boards and a few things like that. But the second half, our execution on the defensive end was poor. They were on the rim the whole half, and you still have a chance to win if we make shots. But if we're not making shots at a given time and giving up 60 to 70 points in a half, it's not a game we're going to win. And unfortunately, that was the case tonight.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce was back at it again for another Bleav in Hawks episode. We are back today. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, we got to talk about another loss for the Atlanta Hawks, losing 3 in a row now, losing to the Bulls tonight, 118-113. In a tough game. We'll talk about some of the similar storylines that come from games like this against the Bulls. We got to talk about Jalen Johnson making it back for the first time in a month. I think for what you saw, he obviously the stats might not blow you away, but I think he looked good tonight as well. And then after that, we got to talk about DeAndre Hunter missing a couple of weeks with a knee injury, what his future is with the Hawks. We got to talk about Dejounte Murray. He's now in trade talks. You're hearing rumors. You're hearing multiple reporters report on that. We got to talk about roster construction. Like, there's a lot to talk about today. There's definitely a lot to discuss about this team today. I just appreciate you guys for tuning into the show and giving me a chance to talk to you guys about what's going on with our Hawks and try to get to the bottom of why we are where we are right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive right into it. Well, right before that, listen to this video. First time, like the podcast, subscribe, like it, show your boy some love. Appreciate all y'all. Audio, same thing. Leave a review, leave a rating. Show your boy some love. Appreciate y'all. Also, follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K, BRICEY_2K for all my Hawks takes over there. If you want to catch up, talk, interact with me on that as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the Hawks lose tonight, 118-113. In a game that was a theme. Well, first, Trae Young had a 30-10 streak snap tonight, but at the end of the day, that's a very just mute note on what this night was, and then what this has been representative of this entire season. The Hawks in games like this, you're playing a team basically has the same record of you, a game ahead of you, I think, or a half game ahead of you in the standings for 10th. So big game for you. They're down Levine. They're down Vucevic. They're down 2 players. Hawks, you're down Hunter, right? That's who you're down. You're down AJ. But in terms of guys in your main rotation, you're down Hunter. Tonight was a game where you've seen the consistent problems with this team all year. And it's just evident. And this is why I've said that I think the team needs to make some changes and some adjustments to the roster, because they continue to make the same mistakes that they've made in other games. The Hawks just can't win close games. The Hawks struggle to win close games. When the games get tight, it always seems like the other team, regardless of who we are playing, seems to always make the plays they need to make to win the game, and we don't. And that's an issue. That's an issue. And a lot of these games, sometimes we're in them because we had Trae Young go crazy, or we had Bogdanovich go crazy, or someone go crazy. But it's not a team effort that helped us stay in that game. Chicago's game tonight was another example of that. We were in the game for the last few minutes of the game, just trade baskets back and forth. And eventually, Chicago was able to get that extra stop and that extra shot that we couldn't get, and that's what won them the game. It's just tough. It's tough. But it's been something that's happened multiple times. The Hawks have lost multiple close games this year. And then another common theme is that some people look at this as like they're blowing leads. Because Hawks in the third quarter were up double digits. Or is it the third? I believe it was the third. I could be wrong. It might be the second. I know they went on that 25-8 run in the second. So they were up 10 there, but they were leading basically going into halftime. And this happened in the Heat game. This happened almost in the Houston game. Memphis for a short period, where they'll have these leads, and then the leads evaporate quickly. Like, it's not like this is a lead that they were up 20 and then it took to the fourth quarter for them to go over the hump. The Hawks will get a 10-point lead and lose a 10-point lead in the same quarter. And that's a problem. Because it's like the team plays in these waves of like, they'll play really, really good basketball and then they'll just play god-awful basketball in the same 12-minute period. And then they never can get back to that stretch that got them the lead. So then you see them as the game goes on, it's back and forth. The other team just makes more plays than you. And that's what happened again tonight. And it's just, and you always are wondering, what is it? Is it defense? Hawks didn't really play that bad of defense tonight. The Hawks defensively, I've said even during these last few games, hasn't to me been as bad as it was during the initial 5-game losing streak we went on. Like here, I feel like it's not even that bad. I just feel like the issue is we're just not making plays. We're not playing well situationally. And I think with the injuries to Hunter and then Jalen being out has dramatically impacted this team. I really hope that this front office realizes that, because your team has just completely sputtered once your wings got injured. That should tell you where the important parts of your team are. You need wings that can produce for you to be good. You need that depth at that position. Because the one thing the team has lacked during Jalen Johnson and DeAndre Hunter's absence is wing play. Because all you have is Sadiq Bey. That's all you have. And if he's off, you ain't getting nothing from that position. One of the most important positions in the NBA. You have to have a really good wing to compete in this league, because you're going to go against other elite wings. That's why every year, y'all, like I've said before, every team is looking for wing upgrades at the trade deadline, because everybody knows the best teams you got to go through, you're going to have to go against some type of a wing player. The only team in the Eastern Conference that you maybe say that competes, that you don't have to deal with that, is the 76ers, because the best wing they have is Tobias Harris. Even though Tobias can play, that's no disrespect. He's a good player. He ain't dangerous, though. You're worried about the point guard and Joel Embiid. Outside of that, though, they have some good wing play. It's not anything crazy. But every other team you pretty much have to play Giannis, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. You got to have wing play. Jimmy Butler, Randall. Like you got to have good wing play. And the Hawks lacking that so much when DeAndre Hunter and Jalen Johnson are out, which is just chalk up to roster construction. And that's why, teams that have wings beat you. Now, luckily with Jalen back, you can put him on someone's best offensive player. And he, and obviously, listen, it's a basketball game. You're going to have Jalen's going to win some. That player's going to win some. He went against DeMar DeRozan tonight. DeMar DeRozan was able to get that key basket late in the quarter. 3-4 straight possessions before that shot. Every time DeMar tried to get a shot, he passed it off. And the Hawks just couldn't get stops from that. But it's just, it's evident. It shows the issues that have been there for this team. It shows what the problems are for this team. Realistically. And because you're not good situationally, it makes sense why you're losing games. Like, the reason why they're 12-18 right now is because they deserve to be 12-18. You're not playing well situationally. You struggle defensively. Yeah, you have injuries, and the injuries are impacting you. They do. You can't. But also, like I said at the beginning of this episode, the Bulls didn't have two of their best three players, and they won tonight. They seem to be able to. They seem like still a well-churning product. With that, Andre Drummond. I know people think Andre Drummond is a scrub, probably, because we ain't heard Andre Drummond's name in so long. And really, because they have Vucevic, he doesn't have to play that much. But Andre Drummond had a monster game tonight against us. That man had 24 and 25. Andre Drummond. They said he hasn't had a game like that during because I think when I was watching on Stream East, I was watching the Bulls broadcast. They said he hasn't had a game like that since January of 2021 when he was still with Cleveland. That man is only averaging 6 points and 7 rebounds this season. People forget, though, he's 30 years old, so he's not old. Even though it seems like he's been in the league for years. He's only 30. And he returned to the vintage Andre Drummond tonight, which killed the Hawks. The only rebounding threat they had was him. And then, obviously, the Bulls have a lot of effort players. So Caruso made big hustle plays tonight. And that also impacted the game, especially late. So you got that. And just the Hawks just didn't do what they need to do tonight. I mean, if you compare the stats, man, you both shot 46%. You both shot 28% from three. You both shot 86, 87% for the free throw line. The difference in the game was the Hawks had 15 turnovers, the Bulls 8. The Bulls won the rebounding battle by 8 and won the offensive rebound battle by 6. They had 4 more steals. They committed less personal fouls. Energy, concentration, situational basketball. Bulls won all those tonight over the Hawks. And that's why they mattered at the end of the game. That's why it mattered. So, and then, you play the Kings Friday. So it's not getting any easier here. Playing a good Kings team. So, I mean, that just is the gist of what this team is. And now let's go deeper into things. Now, let me talk about Jalen Johnson before I get into the point after that. So, Jalen Johnson tonight came back tonight. First time playing since the injury. He actually played 29 minutes tonight. 10 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 of 8 shooting. Wasn't terrible. I mean, he didn't blow you away, but there were moments. He had a couple of put-back dunks. His parents were in attendance tonight cheering him on. I mean, he didn't play bad. Like, he played, well. I mean, it wasn't – obviously, if you could get more from him, which is his first game back from something like that, he's probably getting his wind, his legs, his shot back. It's like, you got to get back into your rhythm that he was before he got hurt. I think he played well. I think that, once he gets back into his rhythm, gets more confident, we're going to need Jalen to start approaching 20 a game, pretty much, for me. Because first, I think he's capable of that. But second, I just think for this team, he needs to be giving you about 20 a game. He was giving you, I think, 15, 16 before he got hurt. So he was almost there. But I think now they need more out of him to really push, forward. Just from support from an offensive standpoint to help with the offensive workload. So I think he played well tonight. But ultimately, like I've mentioned, wings are an issue. Like DeAndre Hunter's out 2 weeks now. He got a knee procedure done, and he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Obviously, Hunter has shot 40% from 3, I think, this year. He's had a career high there. And as much as people crap on Hunter, the Hawks need him. The coaches have said that about Hunter. We need him. As much as y'all don't like the way he plays basketball or don't like his IQ, we need him. We need him. I mean, clearly, when this man has left the lineup the last 3 games, we're 0-3. We went on that quick 2-game winning streak when Hunter came back from the initial first time he sat out because of the knee. We won 2 in a row, and then he was out the next 3. We 0-3 since then. Because here's the thing, and I'll actually compare this to Jalen. When Jalen Johnson got hurt, you put in Garrison, you put in Weston. We were getting AJ play for a little bit. And we were getting like 3-point games just from those 3 combined. And I'm like, you lost 15 points and you're only getting 4 of that back. Of course, your team's getting worse. You don't have anybody who can step into that role. And listen, we know they're not Jalen. They're not going to be Jalen Johnson. But give me something that, like, okay, he at least can give you this a night and make up for some of what you just lost. The Hawks really don't have players that come off the end of the bench that do that. That's why so many people have been pushing for Seth Lundy, who got hurt tonight with an ankle sprain, which I hated because he was one of the first subs into the game. And I love that because I said, once they get healthy, Seth Lundy needs to be that ninth guy, or I guess if Hunter's out, the eighth guy. He needs to be in that rotation. Because I feel like he plays. Listen, for the short time he played tonight, he played with effort on defense. He only took one shot, but he got that thing, put that thing right up there. Shooting with more confidence, getting more confidence in the shot. So that's why I hated that he went down. Because Seth Lundy is a guy who actually can come off the bench to me, and if he can find his rhythm, he can get hot. He can give you 12, 15 points. Realistically, you're not getting that from Wesley Matthews, who can't hit anything when he plays. And Garrison Matthews, at best, can give you maybe 2 threes a game. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. Tonight, he hit a couple. Gave you 6 points. Nothing special. But my point is, you get nothing from the end of your bench. So when you're playing guys at one of the most important positions in basketball who aren't giving you much production against other teams who are getting production from that position, it puts way more pressure on Trey and Dejounte and Bogey to score the ball to just make up for it. It's like they're having to make up for what they lost, plus what they're not getting. And if one of them has an off night, it's like, well, the Hawks don't have enough. If Bay is off, Trey is off, Murray is off, Bogey is off, Hawks don't have enough to win games. That's a roster construction issue, which is reflected on the front office. That is reflected towards the front office and Landry Fields. Because you have to have this team more prepared and ready. Listen, I'm about to get into the trade rumors. We can talk about making a move, but if you're the Hawks, wait a season, you need to make a move next month. Like, you can't wait till the deadline. You know how people have to wait a few days before the trade deadline? You need to make a move next month. At least make one. Like do something. Because this is not what you envisioned for this season. I'm sure you expect a more competitive team. The energy coming into the season felt different. It felt like this team was like going to be on a good path. They were 0-2, then they were 4-2, then they were 500, then they were a game over 500, 2 games over 500, back to 500. Then Jalen goes down, and then it just flips the other way, and now you're just not able to even be a 500 team. And now you're 6 games under 500. Listen, when you have injuries, and the Suns are going through this right now, but they're a 500 team, but, they have injuries to their best players, and, they're not maybe being as good as they thought they would be at this point in the season, because injuries can impact that. Like, injuries do impact wins and losses, like it does. But one thing you want to say is, can we still be competitive? During the Eastern Conference Finals run, we had games where Trey was out and different guys were out. And we had Brandon Goodwin being our starter. And we were winning those games. Now, we lose Hunter, we lose Jalen. It's like we can't. It is a struggle to win games. And the problem too in these games is it's not that we're getting blown off the court or we're not competitive. We play well, we get a lead, and then we blow the lead in like the third quarter usually. Fourth quarter is back and forth, and then when it gets towards the second half of the fourth quarter, the other team's able to pull away. Just not enough consistency within this team's play. And that's a big problem. People want to point the fingers. Some people say it's all the front office's fault because they built this team. They allowed this team to have its weaknesses. Like I've said before, people complain that Quinn Snyder went to an 8-man rotation. Why are we going 8, really not going 9, 10? Well, clearly I see why he didn't go past to 9 and 10. Clearly, because he ain't got much after that. Really, basically, what has happened is that you basically, the only rookie you could really play is Seth right now. Potentially Muhammad. The only problem with Muhammad is that, like I said, he's very inexperienced in terms of basketball experience, and he's dealing with an injury right now. And Kobe's a guard, So unless you're reducing Trey's, Bogey's, or Dejounte's minutes, he's not going to touch the floor. And if you go to a fourth guard, he clearly feels comfortable with Trent Forrest just for the defensive reasons. Trey ain't give you nothing offensively, but the Hawks are not a great defensive team. And he's like, well, we need maybe a good defensive guard in there. And then you'll put him in there. And all of that just has not worked out for the Hawks. And it's why they sit where they are right now with their record. And it's tough. It is tough when you have that. It's tough. You know? Because like I said, Jalen came back tonight. And like I've said, Jalen, when Jalen plays, I want to make this point earlier and I forgot to because I'm just rambling. You could look at Jalen Johnson and you could feel his aura. You could feel like, you know, when if you turned on a TV, you just turned on a basketball game. Just want to watch a basketball game. And you turned it on. And you just saw Jalen Johnson and you saw players on the floor. You know by looking at him, yeah, he's one of the best players on this court. That's the vibe I get from him. Like, you know, okay, yeah, he is one of the better players on this court. He just has that juice the Hawks need. He just makes those plays no other player on the Hawks can make. You could just tell, like, he is the real deal. He's the real deal. He just doesn't. He's still learning and growing as a player, and all that. And like I said, he is definitely a person you are marking down as we are building around Jalen Johnson. For sure. 100%. And I think that needs to change now because he has emerged in terms of building. Before you probably were building around Dejounte and Trey. Now, probably building around Trey and Jalen. Speaking of Dejounte, so about a week or two ago, Dejounte Murray liked a couple of tweets that expressed seemed like frustration with playing time and his role. A couple of days ago, he deactivates his Twitter and goes dark on Instagram, which basically we don't put up black screen, things like that. Then you've heard more reporters talk about Dejounte potentially being in trades. Today, Shams talked about him potentially going to the Lakers. So it clearly seems like something's going on with Dejounte in his status with the Hawks. Clearly, this is not a coincidence that all these things have kind of happened and this is happening. People, even before this, have kind of questioned, Dejounte's commitment at times. Because if you notice, the last few games, Dejounte has had really good first halves, but in the second half, he's non-existent. And that's weird to me. Maybe he's just inconsistent, but then do they change rotations differently with him in the second half? Like what is it that makes him effective in the first half but not in the second? But regardless of all of that, you now have a situation right now where you are in a place of you're the Hawks where you need to make changes. And I've said this. The Hawks need to make changes. We talked about Hunter, trade deadline, Capella, potentially, now Murray. Let's talk about Murray for a second. Let's say you hypothetically trade Dejounte Murray. So I asked this question on my Twitter. What do you do with the 2 spot? Let's just say hypothetically you don't get a 2 back that's a starter in return. What do you do with the 2? Well, if you look at your options, Bogey. I personally think Bogey is like Jamal Crawford to teams or to the Hawks, or how Jamal Crawford was to multiple NBA teams, where Jamal was good enough to be a starter, but always came off the bench, was always the sixth man. The sixth man is like a de facto sixth starter for teams because they're a guy that you flexibly could play 30 minutes and basically play starter minutes. So and I don't think Quinn wants to take him off the bench. So I don't think that is a reasonable thing that will happen. I mean, he could start Bogey. He definitely could. I feel like he would prefer to have Bogey stay on the bench. So if it's not Bogey, then you go to AJ. Well, we don't know what's happening with AJ right now. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if he's close. We don't even know if he's going to play another minute of basketball for this team. So we have no clue what's going on with AJ Griffin. So we have to assume he's not part of this team for right now. So then you get even deeper into your bench. Now, the only other two guys I can think of are Kobe Buffkin, who you drafted with your first round pick this year, or Seth Lundy, who you drafted in the second. Are you happy with that? Would you be okay with Kobe or Seth starting at 2 next to Trey? Now, you have to understand they're rookies. They're still developing. They're still learning. They're projects. They're not going to come in and now give you 20 a game, I don't think. Now, it could shock me for sure, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. They may, though. We have no idea. But let's just say they don't. So you're downgrading in scoring. You can talk about what we say about Dejounte's defense, but at the end of the day, I mean, you don't know if either one of them is going to be better defensively than Dejounte right now. So you kind of feel like you kind of need to get a starting 2 back in return in some capacity, which could happen. I mean, the Hawks could be looking to upgrade that 2 and 3. We've talked about Pascal Siakam with Hunter. Some people are thinking maybe potentially you can get Zach LaVine somehow in a multi-team trade. That's a guy who I think people are going to try to connect to the Hawks. You know, and everything. And because people feel like with the Dejounte experiment hasn't worked out. They feel like that it's one of those things where it's not Dejounte hasn't played well, but Dejounte hasn't been what you thought he was going to be for this team. Like people say, what Derek White is to Boston is what you thought Dejounte was going to be for Atlanta. And he hasn't been that to a lot of people. I think that Dejounte is a better offensive player than Derek White, but Derek White's a better defensive player. And I think that's been reflected to me. And so what you're seeing is what you're getting, right? The big thing is, what do you do with the 2 spot if you trade him? Because you want to pair someone who fits with Trey and can play off of Trey. Bogey can play off of Trey just because he's a shooter and he knows his job at the end of the day is to put a lot of threes. But you kind of, like I said, want that off the bench. If you can. Like I said, push comes to shove, he has to start. Obviously, defensively, that's not your ideal rotation. That's another reason why you probably would not want to put him as a starter, but you know, you do what you got to do. You know, and people are asking, what would we want from the Lakers? People don't want D'Lo. I think I heard you can't get Vanderbilt till after the season. Cam Reddish probably won't come back. So realistic, and then a lot of people are just like, I don't know if I want anybody else unless they're LeBron or AD off of that team. So it's like, unless again 3-4 team trade with the Lakers, a trade between the Hawks and the Lakers straight up probably won't happen. And don't forget, Dejounte Murray's agent is Clutch Sports, so you know how they are. You know how they operate. You know how Clutch operates, guys. People are trying to figure out who leaked it. Who leaked it about potentially this trade? Was it Dejounte? Because the thing is that LeBron plays on the LA, and so anytime you hear the Lakers involved with any Clutch client, you're gonna assume Clutch leaked that because they remember they said Trae Young to LA this past summer. Both of our guards are leaked to LA, but they Clutch. Okay, like to me, I think Clutch leaked that. Now here's the thing, though. There is a chance Dejounte is unhappy. He has expressed that to Rich Paul or whoever his agent is in Clutch. And so he's just like, okay, I'll put out there that, the Lakers could be a spot for you. And I've seen some Laker fans embracing that. It's crazy how we complain about Capella and Dejounte Murray, but I saw a tweet that said, from a Laker fan that said, getting Dejounte Murray and Clay Capella would feed families. From a Lakers fan. They said that would feed families. Okay. So, this trade deadline for the Hawks is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be very important for this team moving forward, because there's so many questions about this team that need answered. How is Trey going at, like, listen, this season don't end up being what it expected to be, and this is how the season ends up. What does Trey do? Does he ask out? That's a possibility. Somebody said, this tweet with somebody in one of my tweets, and they said the front office ain't under no pressure. And I said, how? You expect to be competitive this year, and you're not at the very moment in time. And you have a superstar. You know what happens if you don't win and you have a superstar on your team. Because now if Trey is unhappy, you don't think that put pressure on the front office then? He's talking about fan attendance and all that. I'm like, yes, the ownership group, Tony Ressler, they have done a great job with the arena. Fans are coming to games more, everything like that. Yes, that has improved, and it needed to improve. Because even when the team was making the playoffs for 10 straight years, people weren't coming to games. And they've improved that. And that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, you still got to put a winning product on the floor. And right now, that's what the Hawks are. The Hawks are not a winning product right now. So you need to kind of change that and make that better and improve that. So you got to make some tough decisions. If you're moving Hunter and you're moving Dejounte, you better get some upgrades from those positions or get better pieces that help construct the team. Because I also said, if you make a move like that, you still got to get bench guys, got to get you some wings, got to get you some bench pieces. So that way you've constructed yourself where if you did have injuries, you're in a better shape. You're in much better shape as a roster to still be able to keep it churning until they can get back. So, overall, this game tonight against the Bulls was frustrating. To lose. Hawks are down a 3-game losing streak again, which is what you hate to see. Very winnable game that they could not execute. And it's just tough. I mean, like I said, you just got to get healthy so you can get the Matthews out the lineup. I mean, literally the thing is that the ninth guy used to play like 5 to 10 minutes, and I'd be fine with that. But the problem is, it's like with the injuries, they're going to play more. And we have all watched this Hawks team and learned we are not winning games with them playing almost 10 plus minutes. They're just not helping us, as they're not giving us what we need to be successful. So there's some stuff that needs to change. And the front office is now facing that scrutiny. Because, like I said, you're 12-18. You don't got time to wait till February. February, you may be already like, listen, the Eastern Conference is weak. So in terms of being a 10th or a 9th seed, the Hawks are probably always going to be in contention. But if you want to potentially try to get back up, get to 8 or 7, got to make some moves. Got to make some moves quickly, man. So you got the Kings next. You got to win that game. Hawks, like I said, have not been a good home team. So I can't even say coming back to Atlanta is going to help them. But they gotta make some changes and they gotta make some improvements, because right now you're still in that part where you're just like, all right, we kind of know what this roster is. We got to make some changes, and we got to see how players play and people's reactions and things like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Like I said, a lot of stuff's happened. Good to see Jalen back tonight, though. Glad to see him back. Hopefully gets back more into Jalen Johnson form that we are used to seeing and what we think he can be. Like I said, we're going to be going 2 weeks without DeAndre. So that's going to be tough. And we'll see how things kind of go, man. So, yeah, that's where we are right now, guys. But that's your Bleav in Hawks podcast, man. So, hope for the best Friday. It's your boy, Bryce Lewis. See you next time.